Today we are comparing two of the best built 14-inch gaming laptops of 2025. The Asus Zephyrus G14 and the HP Omen Transcend 14. They're very similarly priced and almost identical in some aspects. So, which one is better? Well, let's find out. And please like and subscribe if you like these type of videos. From the outside, they've both been designed as premium thin and light devices. They might contrast in this video, but they both come in the opposite colors as well. The Zephyrus's white and black are more like silver and gray though. Their build quality is excellent. Both have a full aluminum body on the top, bottom and on the inside, so they don't flex or creak and feel very premium to the touch. The Zephyrus does feel a little more solid though. They are both pretty much the thinnest gaming laptops you can buy. I mean, they're thinner than most non-gaming laptops. And this goes for their weight as well. They're very comfortable to carry around, basically like you've got a MacBook. But they definitely are gaming laptops. Both have very impressive specifications, especially for their size, but the Omen does have quite a big limitation here. It only gets 75 watts of power for its GPU, while the Zephyrus gets quite a bit more on the same RTX 5070 spec. I know this might seem unfair the way I spec these two, but this was done for reasons you'll see soon enough. The Zephyrus can be spec'd a lot higher, and these higher tier GPUs get a lot more power and performance. This wattage limitation on the Omen will be shown clearly when we get to performance. As for their I/O, they both have quite a nice port selection, but the Omen has the slight advantage of having some ports on the back as well. The Zephyrus has a micro SD port though, so it does have more versatility. They both have relatively small charging bricks compared to the average gaming laptop. But while Asus uses their own proprietary charging connector, the Omen actually uses regular old USB-C. On first glance this is pretty cool, but this limits it to only 140 watts, which again really limits the power this thing can use. On top of that, the Zephyrus can also just charge through its USB-C ports, but only up to 100 watts. Now onto the inside, their keyboards. They both do have RGB backlights, but while the Zephyrus only has one RGB zone for the entire keyboard, the Omen actually has 4, so it technically has a little more customizability. Now here's how the keys sound. The Omen's keys feel clicky with a shorter key travel, but the Zephyrus is also clicky with a longer key travel. I personally prefer the Zephyrus here simply because it has a longer key travel. And it also has 4 reprogrammable macro keys at the top here, while the Omen lacks any kind of extra keys. Just below that we have their trackpads. They're both nice and large, as they should be, but the Zephyrus's trackpad is made of glass, while the Omen's is made of plastic. As for the actual clicks, the Zephyrus is a bit quieter but feels more premium, while the Omen is a bit more clicky. They're both simply great, but the Zephyrus feels slightly sturdier. When it comes to their displays though, these are both the best of the best. 3K 120Hz OLED is pretty much as good as it gets at this size. In fact, these two use the exact same panels, just like on their 16-inch variants. So they both have amazing colors, infinite contrast, and perfect inky blacks. And in my opinion, 120Hz is plenty smooth enough for fast-paced games as well. They also get just as bright at 500 nits, and 1800p at 14 inches is very sharp. It simply looks great. But there is one noticeable difference here: their coating. The Omen does have some kind of anti-reflective layer, but it absolutely pales in comparison to the coating that the Zephyrus uses. The Omen isn't as bad as those way cheaper OLED displays that some laptops use, but the Zephyrus simply does it a lot better. This is the best anti-reflective coating I've seen on an OLED laptop so far. Now I'm pretty sure they use the same hinges as well, because they do both have some wobble, And they can also open up just as far, which I wish was a little bit further. Now, in the full review of the OMEN 14, I was really impressed by its speakers. So can it beat the speaker king of laptops? While they both sound really good, the Zephyrus still wins here by miles. It can get like double as loud, it has more bass, and that surround sound just sounds great. The OMEN is being limited by only having down-firing speakers, while the Zephyrus has higher quality speakers on the top here, as well as dedicated subwoofers on the bottom, which really helps it get that extra bass. Do not get me wrong, the OMEN has great speakers. It's actually got some of the best speakers I've ever heard on a laptop. But compared to the Zephyrus G14, it gets absolutely destroyed. I thought they would have the same cameras, but the OMEN does look a little better. Skin tones are more accurate, but it does look less sharp. The Zephyrus definitely has the better microphone though. Now let's finally look at their performance. This might be a little unfair, since this Zephyrus just has a faster GPU, but I want to show that you can at least get that option on the Zephyrus. But I'll include numbers for the RTX 5070 G14 as well, so you can compare that with the very hard wattage limited RTX 5070 on the OMEN 14. In Cinebench R23, we can see that their CPU performance is about the same. The Zephyrus has slightly faster multi-core performance and the OMEN slightly faster single core, but there's not really a difference here. And in 3D Mark TimeSpy, obviously the RTX 5070 Ti is faster. But when we compare it to the Zephyrus with the same RTX 5070 as the OMEN, it becomes clear how wattage limited the OMEN is. But these are both gaming laptops, so how do they do in some actual games?
You'll never take me down.
What did you do, man? No!
The Zephyrus is a lot faster, obviously. This shouldn't be a surprise since it simply has a better GPU, but when we throw the RTX 5070 Zephyrus in there, you can really see why the OMEN is slower. That harsh power limit makes it about as fast as a laptop RTX 4060, and nowhere near close to an RTX 5070. And in GPU intensive games, that becomes very apparent. So while the Zephyrus can comfortably play games at 3K, even with that lower spec RTX 5070 model, you'll be better off playing games at 1200p on the OMEN. It's just not made for 3K gaming. But since it uses a lot less power, does it also run cooler and quieter? Well, strangely, no. In the performance mode, with extra power limits on, it runs pretty hot, and dangerously close to its thermal limit. If we turn these extra power limits off, this does become better, but these are still not ideal temperatures. While on the Zephyrus, it stays considerably cooler even with maximum power limits and extra overclocks. The GPU on the OMEN does stay considerably cooler than on the Zephyrus, but this isn't very impressive for a maximum TGP of 50 to 75 watts. The only conclusion I can take out of this is that the Zephyrus simply has a better cooling solution. but the OMEN does stay quieter during gaming. Okay, so maybe the OMEN has better battery life. I mean, it uses less power, so does it last longer? Well, I tested them in two scenarios, under light use and during gaming. In the light use case, I played a YouTube video until their batteries died, with their displays at full brightness at 60 Hz and with their dedicated GPUs turned off. And the Zephyrus still lasted quite a bit longer. It seems that these Intel chips are still a lot more power hungry. Just like with the Intel version of the 16-inch Zephyrus, the G14's HX370 chip is just a lot more power efficient. Not to mention, you can quite easily undervolt these AMD CPUs to use even less power. Now in the gaming test, I played Battlefield 1 until their batteries died with the same settings as before. And yeah, just don't play games on battery if you've got a gaming laptop. You'll be lucky to get more than an hour or something. Now, since they're both thin and light laptops, you should not be expecting a lot of upgradeability out of them. And like always, you do not get very much. But while they both have a single SSD slot on which you could upgrade their storage, only the Zephyrus has an upgradable Wi-Fi card, which I guess could be handy. But neither one of them has upgradable RAM though, which is a bit of a bummer. But which one of these is more expensive? The price of a laptop can make or break your purchasing decision. Well, here in Europe, this spec of the OMEN costs around 2,400 bucks. So not great, not terrible. But the 5070 Ti Zephyrus that I used in this video is very close to that. It's only 300 bucks more. And on top of that, the 5070 G14, so with the same GPU as the OMEN, is exactly the same price as the OMEN. So the OMEN and the Zephyrus are literally the exact same price, but the Zephyrus is faster. And if you spend a little bit more, you'll get that 5070 Ti G14, which is a lot faster than the 5070 OMEN 14. I feel like we're at a crossroads here. Which brings us to our conclusion. Which one of these should you get? The Zephyrus G14 or the HP Omen 14? I'm not gonna twist your nuts here. The Zephyrus is objectively the better laptop. There is not a single thing that the OMEN does better than the Zephyrus here. The G14 has better speakers, a better display coating, and it is simply way faster in both CPU and definitely GPU performance. I mean, the performance difference between the same spec models is already big, but getting this much more performance for only 300 bucks more is just ridiculous. So in 99% of the situations, you should just get the Zephyrus. But this is not the entire story. I've heard that in a lot of countries, the OMEN is considerably cheaper than the Zephyrus. This was the case with their 2024 counterparts as well, so this is a pretty big consideration. But look, the OMEN 14 with an RTX 5070 performs like a gaming laptop with a 4060. And I'm pretty sure that a G14 with a 5060 will outperform the 5070 OMEN 14. So even if it's a lot cheaper, you're still leaving a lot of performance on the table. So I would only get this OMEN if it is dirt cheap. Look, the OMEN 14 is not a bad laptop. It is just severely underpowered. So in every other situation, the G14 is simply the better option. Now let me give a huge shout out to my YouTube members. Soundwife, Thomas, Inky, Mr. Frosty Dude, Dropzone1, Martijn Snijkers, Flimsy, Aki, Disco Volante, Daniel, Mr. Nuke, Sebastian, Christian Sands, Real Elf, Alan, Toasted, Suryansh, Eric the Rad, Walter, Wesley Rhodes, Michael, Ghost Data, and Ano Gedar. If you become a YouTube member, you get early access to content of mine, a shout out at the end of every video, and you'll also be supporting me as a creator to make these videos. And of course, you'll also be part of the Cool Guys Club. So you can use cool emojis like these in the comment section. So join the club if you're interested. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.
Compramos carros y camionetas viejas para desarmar.